Linda sat by her window, small and silent against the world outside. The rain fell steadily, pattering against the glass, turning the old house into an island of loneliness in the middle of the night. Her hands rested gently on her belly, where new life grew quietly deep inside. She was 18, alone, and unsure whether to find hope or fear in the heartbeat beneath her palm. She listened. Somewhere, far off in the street, footsteps echoed. They came closer, slow and deliberate, matching the heavy thudding of her heart. Linda stayed perfectly still, her eyes wide, watching the shadows move across the wall. Someone had been watching her. She felt the eyes sometimes, a tingling, prickling sense on the back of her neck when she drew the curtains closed or locked the door at dusk. Linda could never see anyone, but she knew. That knowledge was heavier than words. She had told no one about her situation, except for Mrs. Miller, the old woman who owned the house and let her stay in the tiny back room. The others in the town had quickened their steps, whispered behind their hands, and then stopped speaking to her at all. Linda remembered a time not so long ago, when she would laugh with friends by the river, or dream about university. That world was gone. Now, all she had was this child hidden within her, and the strange, silent presence lingering outside. Tonight felt different. The power had flickered earlier, and the house felt colder than usual. Linda pressed her ear to the wall, straining to hear through the hush of rain. There it was again, the unmistakable crunch of gravel, someone moving near the porch. She darted to the window and peered through a sliver in the dusty curtain. On the street, just beyond the reach of the single yellow street lamp, stood a shadowy figure. It was impossible to make out any details, but she saw how still he was, waiting. Watching. Linda's mind whirled with fears and questions. Had someone from her past come to find her? Was it someone from the town? Or maybe someone she didn't know at all? Why did he watch her? Did he know her secret, or was he searching for something of his own? Every question pressed down on her as the baby moved inside her, gently but unmistakably, as if sensing the tension. A creak from the floorboards made her freeze. She pressed her hands to her mouth, barely daring to breathe. The clock on the dresser ticked loudly. The door, swollen from the damp, sat tightly in its frame, but Linda could see the old lock wasn't strong. She wished Mrs. Miller was here, or anyone. But Linda was alone with her secrets, her fears, and the unknown life that depended on her. She told herself it was only the rain, only her imagination, but she knew better. Something was out there. Something had found her. And as the night closed around the house, wrapping the world in darkness and doubt, Linda wondered if the morning would ever come. The rain showed no signs of stopping as morning tried to push through the darkness. Dawns in this part of town were never really bright, but today, as Linda blinked at the watery grey light through her window, it felt as if the sun itself was mourning with her. She had not slept. Throughout the night, Linda's mind replayed the image of that silent figure beneath the flickering street lamp. Had he been watching her for days? For weeks? She wondered if she had truly seen him before, or if her mind had conjured him out of fear and loneliness. Turning away from the window, Linda tugged her worn cardigan closer and crept quietly down the hallway. Every creak in the floorboards made her flinch. The old house seemed to whisper with secrets, sighing with every winter draft. Russell, Mrs. Miller's black cat, watched her from atop a pile of old books, his green eyes glinting in the dimness, his tail flicking as if he sensed trouble. The kitchen was cold, the air heavy with the scent of rainwater and stale bread. But something new caught Linda's eye, a pale envelope on the battered wooden table. She froze. The envelope was pristine, out of place in the cluttered kitchen, and her name was written on it in looping, elegant script, Linda. Linda stared at the envelope for several seconds. She knew with a chill that it had not been there when she'd cleaned the kitchen late last night. With trembling hands, she picked it up, turning it over. No stamp, no return address. No sign of who could have left it. A pulse of dread hammered at her chest as she slid her finger under the flap and pulled out a single sheet of thick, cream-colored paper. You are not alone. We are watching over you. But there are secrets in this house. Trust no one. If you wish to keep your child safe, meet me tonight, by the willow tree. Linda read the words again and again. The handwriting was strangely familiar. A memory teased the edge of her mind, a fragment from before her world fell apart. But she couldn't place it. And that frightened her more than she wanted to admit. She glanced around the room, suddenly anxious. How had someone entered? The back door was bolted, the windows latched. Mrs. Miller always locked up before bed. Was she involved? No, it couldn't be. The old woman had been kind, stern, yes, but never cruel. Still, doubt crept in, biting at Linda's trust. The hours that followed passed in a haze. Linda tried to make tea, but her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the kettle. She swept the hallway, fed the complaining cat, and listened to the low rumble of thunder as the storm rolled on. Each sound outside made her heart race. By midday, Linda knew she couldn't bear to stay indoors. Wrapping her scarf around her neck, she slipped outside and walked to the bottom of the garden, where the willow tree stood. Its long, slender branches trailed in the wet grass, forming a curtain that all but swallowed her from view. She ran a hand along the rough bark, half expecting to see someone step out from behind the trunk. But there was only silence, only the constant, steady patter of rain. She thought of the letter's warning, "Trust no one." Did that mean Mrs. Miller? Or perhaps someone else in the town? Someone who tried to stay close to her, to watch and wait? Was there truly a danger, or was this some desperate attempt at being seen, a twisted trick played by her own loneliness and fear? She stayed by the willow until her clothes clung to her skin with cold and damp, then forced herself back inside. Her mind reeled with questions she was too afraid to speak aloud. As night fell across the sky, Linda wrapped herself in every bit of courage she had left. She wrote a note for Mrs. Miller, just in case. Gone for a walk, she lied, tucking it under the sugar bowl. Then, taking the letter with her, she slipped on her shoes and stepped into the darkness, heading back to the willow tree. Beneath its sweeping branches, she waited, her breath showing in the cold air. Every moment felt like an eternity. The garden seemed unnaturally quiet, the night pressing in as if the world itself was holding its breath. Then, from the darkness, a second figure appeared. Silent, hesitant, moving towards her beneath the leaves. Linda's heart hammered in her chest. Was this the person who had written her the letter? Or someone even more dangerous? She did not run. She gripped her coat tight, waiting, trembling, as the secrets of her lonely nights began at last to reveal themselves. The willow tree stood like a guardian in the garden, its branches swaying in the night wind. Linda clung to its trunk, her breath visible in the chilly air. She tried to steady her nerves, but the anticipation was almost worse than the fear itself. Every second stretched out as she waited beneath the draping branches, the letter warm in her pocket. Finally, movement. The shadows parted and a figure stepped forward. A man, tall and wrapped in a dark coat, face partially hidden by the collar and the low brim of a hat. For a moment, Linda thought about running. But her feet felt rooted to the spot, and a strange sense of calm, almost defiance, took over. She would not leave, not until she knew the truth. The stranger stopped a few meters away, his voice soft but urgent. "Linda." She swallowed. "Yes. Who are you?" He hesitated, glancing nervously back towards the house, as if making sure no one followed. "I can't tell you my real name yet. It isn't safe. But you need to listen to me." Linda's hands trembled. "What do you want from me?" "I want to help you," he said. "But you must believe me when I say that you're in danger. That house you're living in, it isn't what you think it is. There are things, secrets, that go back years." The man's tone sent shivers down Linda's spine. She remembered each creak, each shadow in the old house. "What sort of secrets?" she managed to ask, fear wrapped around her like a second skin. He looked at her, his eyes troubled. "There are people looking for you, and your baby. People willing to do anything to find you. You have to trust me, even if you don't understand why yet. Tonight, you must not sleep in that house. Do you understand?" Linda stared, torn between anger and disbelief. Why would anyone be after me? Why my baby? Her mind raced through every possibility, every rumor she'd heard about the house, about her own past. Was this about her, or about something hidden in the walls she called home? He moved slightly closer, lowering his voice. "There are things in your family's past that even you don't know. The people who built that house. Mrs. Miller was involved, and," he broke off, glancing again at the house. I can't say more, not now. Take this. He pressed a small, folded scrap of paper into her hand. This is where you'll find me if you need help. But you can't go back inside tonight. Promise me. Linda's heart pounded. She glanced down, unfolded the scrap. An address written in hurried, slanted handwriting. She shivered again, every sense screaming at her to run, to hide, but also to finally get answers. Suddenly, the wind shifted, and Linda heard another noise from the house. Quick footsteps on the gravel path, a light flickering on in an upstairs window. The man stepped back into the shadows. Go, he whispered. Before they see us together. Remember, tonight, don't trust anyone. Not even Mrs. Miller. He disappeared into the darkness as quickly as he'd come, leaving Linda breathless and alone. In her palm, the address felt like both a promise and a threat. She hesitated only for a second before moving quickly across the wet grass toward the back gate. Behind her, the house loomed in the night, every window staring out like hollow eyes. Something deep inside Linda shifted. She knew, finally, that nothing would ever be the same. She ran. For herself. For her child. For the answers she was both desperate and terrified to find. As the rain began again and the shadows swallowed her path, Linda held the stranger's note close, determined to keep moving, no matter where the secrets might lead. Linda stepped into the dimly lit apartment, her shoes squeaking quietly on the warped wooden floorboards. Behind her, the woman who had let her in quickly closed the door and slid the bolts into place. A single lamp cast long shadows across the cramped living room, making everything feel surreal and uncertain. The man inside, different from the one at the willow, watched her with cautious but kind eyes. Linda gripped the note in her pocket, her heart still pounding. She tried to calm herself, reminding herself that this was the address the stranger had given. If she couldn't trust it, she had nowhere else to go. Sit down, the woman said softly, gesturing to a threadbare armchair. Linda sat, her muscles still tense for flight. The woman introduced herself in a hushed voice. I'm Carla. This is David. You're safe here for now. The man, David, nodded once, then went to check the window, peering through the edge of the curtain. Linda sensed questions itching behind their tension, but she spoke first. Why me? Why my baby? What does any of this have to do with my family? A heavy silence settled before David finally turned to her. There are old debts and secrets tied to the house and to your name, things buried decades before you were born. Mrs. Miller was only a piece of the puzzle. The people after you believe you're the key to finding something they lost when the house was built. Linda's head spun. I don't understand. None of this makes sense. What could I possibly? David interrupted, his voice urgent but gentle. You don't need to know everything right now. You only need to survive. And tonight, that means staying hidden. Carla sat across from Linda, leaning in. We'll explain everything soon, but you need to trust us. She hesitated, glancing at Linda's belly. How far along are you? Linda instinctively wrapped an arm around herself. 7 months, she whispered. The woman nodded solemnly. That's what we were afraid of. The timing is important. A sharp gust of wind rattled the window, making all three of them flinch. Linda looked toward the door, fear sharp in her chest. Do they know I'm here? Carla stood up, moving to check the locks again. We don't think so. But we have to be ready if they come looking. There's a room at the end of the hall. Use it to rest. Get some sleep if you can. We'll keep watch tonight. Linda stood shakily, the events of the night beginning to catch up with her. But as she walked down the narrow hallway, her mind churned furiously. She had come here for answers, but she felt only more questions piling up, about her family, about the true nature of the house, about her unborn child. As she lay down on the small bed in the back room, for a brief moment she let herself believe she was safe. But in the darkness, with rain still drumming against the windowpane, Linda knew the real storm was yet to come. Linda's breath came in sharp clouds as she ran, the city still waking in the pale morning light. Her mind spun, the address in her pocket, the memory of the willow tree, Carla's desperate instructions. She darted down a narrow street and finally found herself at the address scrawled hurriedly on the stranger's note. An iron gate, half hidden by ivy. a walk lined with wild roses. She hesitated only a moment before pushing through and stepping up to the battered old door. She knocked 3 times, as the note had instructed. The door opened just wide enough for a careful, familiar pair of eyes to study her. The man from the garden. Only now did Linda really see how tired, even frightened, he looked. "Come in," he said, not wasting a word. Inside, the house was cramped and silent, lit by weak daylight and the steady tick of an ancient clock. He led Linda quickly to a sitting room, where thick curtains stifled the morning sun. Here, at last, she was out of breath, but safe. Or as safe as she could be. "They know Carla was helping me," Linda said, voice raw. "They're close." He nodded. "We don't have much time. You need to hear the truth, everything, before they find us both." He laid an old photo album on the table, its cover cracked and worn. "Your family founded both the house and the trust that protects what's inside it. Over generations, each firstborn was tasked to guard a secret, one that could bring great harm if it fell into the wrong hands. That power is real, Linda. The house was made not just as a shield, but a vault." Linda's hands shook as she opened the album. Black and white photographs, faces she barely recognized. Her grandmother, Mrs. Miller, standing in the background. And in one photo, an infant Linda, her mother holding her close. "My baby," Linda murmured, understanding crashing over her. "They think, the legacy passes to us both, don't they?" He nodded. "Some believe your child will inherit it, untouched, uncorrupted. Others, those after you, want to control or destroy what makes your bloodline distinct. Mrs. Miller tried to warn you, but she was watched too." Tears slipped down Linda's cheeks. Grief for the family she barely knew, gratitude for the stranger's courage, fear for the little life growing inside her. "What do I do now?" "Break the cycle," he said simply. "Let the house go. Start somewhere new, free from secret and legacy. Leave this city tonight. I'll make sure they follow a false trail." She felt the world tilt, the burdens suddenly less crushing. Linda remembered the old willow in the garden, strong, enduring, but also always swaying with the wind. She could stand her ground, but she could also let go. "I promise," she said quietly. "This ends with me." With that, the man led her out the back, into the uncertain morning. As Linda moved beyond the shadows of her family's secrets, she squeezed her child's talisman, a tiny copper locket, one last reminder of the past she had chosen to break free from. She slipped away into a future shaped not by fear, but by her own resolve. For the first time, Linda felt truly awake. And whatever storms were still to come, she knew she had the strength to face them.